Hello and welcome aboard another episode of the Talkin Texans podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and also on YouTube at ESPN 97.5's YouTube channel. I am Paul Gallant, host of the Paul Gallant Show, which you can hear weekdays 10 to noon on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5 here in Houston. He is DJ Bien-Aime. He covers the Houston Texans for the four-letter network, ESPN, another Sports Center hit for the TV star. DJ, what's up, bud?
Not much, finally happy to be inside, not have to be outside by 8, 9 a.m. because Lord knows how hot it be.
We are
Around 9 a.m.
recording on Wednesday the 2nd, and DJ, when I got into my car, it said 106. The Texans had the day off, so I'm happy that you got the day off as well. The air conditioning is very appreciated today.
Indeed, I don't even turn mine off. I actually found out the other day when I was in South Florida for a while. If you turn off your AC for a while, it'll mess up the AC.
It
So
will.
all this is just a scam, just for you to spend money. All of it. You can't even save electricity if you don't use your AC, because if you don't use it during the heat, it's gonna get messed up. So,
Talkin Texas podcast is not brought to you by Big Air Conditioning. So let's talk about what we've seen at Texans training camp, DJ. You have been out there and you have been watching the thing that we're all paying the most attention to, an actual quarterback competition between second overall pick CJ Stroud and last year's starter Davis Mills. From the sound of things, there is a guy that has the upper hand, DJ. It doesn't sound like it's the guy that everyone wants it to be at this moment in time.
yeah, I'm sorry to break the news to all Texans fans. Davis Mills has been better than CJ Stroud throughout the first 2 days of camp, because camp really starts once they put on pads. So everything that happened before they put on pads doesn't matter. None of it matters. If you saw this one player had a nice play, made a few plays before they put on pads, doesn't matter. The past 2 days is when training camp has truly started, and Davis Mills has been a notch better than Stroud. Now, is that to say the quarterback competition is over? Davis Mills is going to start week 1? No. But on August 2nd, at this date, through the first 2 days of padded practices, and if you want, even if you want to include the other, t-shirt and short practices, Davis Mills has been consistently better than CJ. With CJ, you see more flashes of, oh, this is why they took him number 2 overall. But there's been also other plays where you see, oh, he's still a rookie, and this is going to take some time. So that's kind of where it is right now with the quarterback competition. Davis Mills, whether he's with the 1s or the 2s, has been better. That's not even debatable. It's funny, when I said it last week on the podcast, I had people in my mentions saying, nah, you're wrong. Everybody else want to be the same. Otherwise, not everybody want to be the same to what I've been saying for about a week. So that's that. Early on, but again, it's early. It's only August 2nd. I do anticipate CJ Stroud eventually not turning it around, but making legitimate leaps within the offense, within training camp, to where it's a no-brainer. All right, let's go with CJ and keep it pushing.
If you're not at these practices, that's me. Here's what I've taken away, DJ. As far as the interception count, CJ's thrown 3, Davis Mills has thrown 2.
Yep.
And the other thing, as far as viral highlights, and specifically these last couple of days, Davis Mills has had a couple deep balls, specifically on plays where he probably would have been sacked. So that's for anybody that's a psycho Texans fan that's studying everything they can from all the people who are out there at training camp. With your own eyes, what's been the biggest difference that can't be quantified by interception count, that can't be quantified by a couple of sexy highlights, in your opinion, between the two?
Davis is on schedule more. He's more consistently. You don't really see that many moments where he's hitching, happy feet, doesn't know where to go to football. He kind of has a good understanding of where to go with the ball. If option 1 isn't available, he knows how to get to option 2, or get to the check down, or sometimes check down is option number 2. That's what he's been better at than CJ. CJ again is making the transition from college to the NFL. I had an NFL coach text me. Obviously, it's obvious, but he texted me and told me he's a rookie. It's gonna be hard. There's gonna be some growing pains because of that transition from the speed, learning the playbook to just learning the speed of the defense, learning what is open, what isn't open in the NFL. Because sometimes what looks covered is still open, where in college, what's open is basically 3 yards of separation and things of that nature. Where in NFL, if you have a yard of separation, you're wide open. So those are things that CJ is still learning how to decipher through. Because when he trusts his eyes and lets it fly, it looks fine. And you see the talent. But once you see the hesitation and indecisiveness, that's when you have issues. For me, when I watch quarterbacks in practice, I pay attention to, okay, is he getting the ball out within 3 seconds? That's what I look at first. If it's obviously a play action deep shot, cool. It might take you 4 seconds. But for the most part, whatever concept they're running, whatever side of the field they're trying to get the ball to, whatever the landmark is, I'm paying attention to 1, 2, 3, throw. If it's 1, 2, 3, pat, then throw, red flag. Because in the NFL, if you are holding the ball over 3 seconds consistently, you will be sacked a lot. The leader in time to throw over the past couple of years has been Justin Fields. He has one of the highest sack rates in NFL history since 2010.
And some other guys
since
on that
2020.
front.
Yeah, you
Russell
know, like
Wilson, Deshaun Watson when he was here.
Right. Like people that tend to hold the ball tend to get sacked way more often. And on top of that, I mean, obviously that's obvious, but on top of that, CJ, when you mentioned those 2 guys, Deshaun and Russell, CJ has athletic ability, but he doesn't have those guys' athletic ability. So where they can legitimately create something out of nothing.
Extending a play.
Right. CJ can extend, but I don't think he has create something out of nothing consistently in his bag. Some guys can't, at least now. So for me, when I'm watching quarterbacks, and I know the difference between, okay, a guy that can truly make something out of nothing when the play isn't there, and a guy that can occasionally, all right, for the guy that's occasionally, you have to be an on-time rhythm type thrower. And when I'm watching, if it's by 3 seconds, the ball's still in your hands, then in a game-like situation, that's going to cause issues. So CJ's a rookie, so that's to be expected in terms of the hesitation and patting the ball and not knowing where to go all the time because you're still learning and you're building chemistry with receivers and you're building chemistry with your offensive line and just learning how to also operate within a muddy pocket because a clean pocket NFL can be condensed. You know, in college, a clean pocket is, you don't even got somebody within spitting range of you. In NFL, you got someone within spinning range of you, but you still got to deliver throws. So it's all going to be a learning process. And to go back to the original point of the question, Davis has been better at staying on schedule, staying within rhythm, getting the ball out within those 3 second window.
And to piggyback off of that, what is something that we know about Kyle Shanahan's offense that allowed Brock Purdy to be what he is, at least to this point in his career? It's that you get the ball out quick. It's that you make quick decisions. And you're assuming that Bobby Slowick is going to want most of the same things out of his quarterbacks. So I don't think there should be any panicking about Davis Mills being better than Stroud at this point. It's a little frustrating, that's for sure. I think a lot of us want to turn the page. I will keep on saying, yeah, I want to turn the page, but Stroud needs to actually get a little bit more decisive out there. Maybe it happens in a couple of practices. Maybe it happens in a couple of games by the start of the regular season. Maybe it takes a couple of games of sitting behind the scenes before the Texans actually turn it over. But there is a real quarterback competition, at least at this moment in time. Has it in any way, DJ, especially since the practices have become full padded, been affected by the defenses, specifically maybe the pass rush or the coverage from a secondary that you really like downfield?
Yeah, I think early on, the defensive front has controlled the trenches through the first 2 padded practices. You see a lot of Will Anderson. You see Malik. You see some Sheldon. You see some Hay Hughes, some Grenard. You've been able to see that front on the D line cause havoc. You mentioned, the one play to Davis Mills, the one of the highlights, right?
Was this Xavier Hutchinson or was this the other one?
Yes, it was the Hutch.
Hutchinson.
You could see Will Anderson get into the backfield, turn around, walk away, then Davis throws the ball down the field.
It looked like it was a punt.
Yeah, like in a real life situation, Davis would have been on his back, and Davis might have got hit so hard, Will might have got flagged. How fast he got into that backfield.
He was in there quick.
So the D line looks better than I had anticipated. I knew on paper, add Will, you got Gennard, you got Hughes, you bring in Sheldon, you re-sign Malik, you still got Roland Lopez coming off, the bench. That I thought, okay, it's going to be a solid unit. Now I think it could be a good unit in 2023. I also think Will Anderson can win Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think that's like a legitimate. I think that's on the table, a legitimate bet. That okay, like CJ, I still see some before we make that decision. Okay, can he win Offensive Rookie of the Year? Da 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 da. Well, I truly believe he can, mainly because I think 10 sacks is on the board. Like I think that may be the floor. Because again, he's getting pressure going against Titus and Laramie Tunsil. He's getting pressure. Now, is he beating them clean? No, not all the time. But those are some of the better tackles you're going to see in the entire NFL. And then obviously when he goes against the backups, it's not even fair. It's not even fair.
I'm guessing that it was against the backups on that deep pass where he would have killed him. That Mills threw to Hutchinson.
Yes. So yeah, man, I've been truly impressed by Will. I've been impressed by that front. Obviously, the secondary, man.
You love it.
That secondary might be. That secondary could be really good this year. Like it'd be, yeah. I don't want to use the word special because for me, there's good, there's very good, there's great, and then there's elite/special. So I don't want to put that type of expectations on them to be special this year. But great is on the table. Very good is the floor. Great is like the close to the ceiling, and the ceiling is special. But I think very good is the floor. Petrie looks good, man. Stingley caught a pick six the other day. Steven Nelson out here baiting the quarterbacks. He's intercepted both quarterbacks, and it's been like veteran stabby things where he's baiting them, not necessarily like he's in man coverage, locking it up, and then like a ball gets thrown and he intercepted. He's like tricking the quarterbacks, jumping routes. I mean, the CJ Stroud interception, some people say it could have been a pick six. I don't know. I just saw the interception and I took my notes. People say it could have been a pick six, whatever. But man, that group looks serious, man. Like me and my dog Mike Dugard, Seattle Athletic, we talk about it all. We talk about that unit a lot. Cause we talk about Texans defensive backs all the time. Cause we're defensive back enthusiasts. We love cornerbacks and safeties. And so we talk about all kinds of defensive backs throughout the entire league. And that group, we was like, yeah, no, that group on paper could be something special. And throughout the first week of camp, yeah, man, I ain't gonna lie. That agenda I had on them, yeah, it's looking good right now. It's looking real good.
You're hot. Let him cook. Cook. To piggyback off of what you were saying about the secondary, you mentioned Steven Nelson. He's got 2 interceptions thus far. You mentioned the Derek Stingley interception. D'Amico Ryan said that he's had an amazing camp. I was listening to D'Amico Ryan's on the Athletic Football Show a couple of days ago, and he was mentioning some of the pieces that are, I think, allowing the defense to maybe get off to the start that they're getting off to. And obviously in training camp, the defense is always a little bit ahead of the curve. But I think that having a guy like Jimmy Ward from San Francisco to come in and on top of that, to be working out in the offseason as quickly as he was with Jalen Petrie, the guy that we're all looking at because of the year that he had last year, as somebody who could be perhaps the best player on this defense this coming season, just given where he always was around the football, how productive he was. There really are a lot of players in this unit where it's not just where they are at this moment in time, where I think on paper they look pretty good. It's also that a lot of them have potential for improvement, specifically Derek Stingley, but also Jalen Petrie. So that's very exciting to hear. And I'm glad to see you as excited about this because it's about time that this team has at least one unit that stands out among others in the league.
Yeah, I mean the secondary and the offensive line. Yeah, those are gonna be those should be two top 10 groups on paper in 2023. I think Jalen Petrie, I think his stat line is gonna be bonkers again. He's gonna be around the ball a bunch, like and he should have I don't know if he'll have more TFLs, but he's gonna play. Obviously, he's gonna play center fielder a lot. But he's also gonna be around a line of scrimmage a bunch. Cause last year, once they made him the primary free safety, he wasn't around the line of scrimmage a lot. And since they were so dreadful at stopping the run, he was able to get a lot of tackles down the field. That's why his tackle number was so high. But I think this year he'll be closer to the box on key run situations sometimes, and obviously he'll be free safety spot, and he's gonna have a lot of opportunity to make a lot of plays. Because another thing, I was talking to a player's parent the other day, and he mentioned about how the secondary is going to have a lot of opportunities to make plays because that front. Because the front's going to be able to get after quarterbacks and get off the offensive line. It's going to force the ball to come out. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities for PBUs from a guy like Jalen. We've seen some safety blitzes from them, so he might be able to get some sacks. We've seen, obviously, he has good coverage skills. He's going to continue to get better at that. So his stat line is going to look kind of bonkers at the end of the year. So I can see him getting some All-Pro votes. He'll for sure be a Pro Bowler. I ain't worried about that at all. He'll be a Pro Bowler because people already know about him already. You know what I mean? So I think the next step, and you had Jalen Warren call him, one of the most underrated safety in the league. You add that with the fact that the scheme is going to use him as a chess piece. Yeah, he's going to get some All-Pro votes this year based on what you've seen through camp and him building on what he did last year. Yeah.
We like the secondary. I want to go back to something you were saying about Will Anderson a little bit ago because I've been reading some interesting quotes about the defense. Remember, under Lovie Smith, they really didn't blitz a lot. And D'Amico specifically went out of his way to say that he wants this defensive scheme to make the first move always. And to go back to Will Anderson, I'm with you in this possibility for production, 10 plus sacks, and that they are lining him up so far outside of the tackles in certain situations in this position called the wide nine, for those who don't know, that it means he's essentially lining outside of the tight end on whatever side of the offensive line that the tight end is, which means that he has extra space to potentially blow past a tackle. And Ryan specifically said about Will Anderson this week, quote, "We're not going to slow him down." And I just think back, DJ, to when some other past Houston Texans were brought into the league. Jadeveon Clowney had some injury issues that I think held him back the first couple of years. But the Texans love to use Clowney in a variety of different roles. Occasionally, they drop him back in coverage. Occasionally, they'd have him on the interior defensive line. On the interior defensive line, he was awesome. The coverage was sort of like, what are you guys doing? But when you're asking a guy to do a lot of things, it can make things a little bit complicated. When you're asking someone like Will Anderson, from the sound of things, to essentially line up as far outside of the tackle as you possibly can and just run straight up field, man, that's got to be just an awesome, freeing feeling. You want your best players to have the freedom to do whatever they can. Wade Phillips eventually allowed J.J. Watt to do that with that defense, and we saw the production from Watt. In a different way, I feel like with Will Anderson, if they are really asking him to do as little as it sounds like they're asking him to do at this point, numbers could be definitely a big thing for him, DJ.
Absolutely. As I said, Will Anderson, defensive rookie of the year, is truly on the table. Mainly for me, he's so refined as a pass rusher. Obviously, his stats were what it was at Alabama. And when you look at, I think he's gonna rush a lot from, I want to say the left end spot, so the right tackle spot. If I'm getting that mixed up, y'all know what I mean. From offensive viewpoint, he's gonna be on the right side, so he's gonna be going against a lot of right tackles, I think. And week one, I believe the right tackle for the Baltimore Ravens, I'm going through their lineups right now. I believe it's going to be Morgan Moses, and then I believe week 2 they're going to go against the Colts. Their offensive line has some questions. Their right tackle is okay, and then week 3 Jaguars. I believe their right tackle. No, that's Cam Robinson that was suspended, but like he's not going to see a bunch of elite level right tackles throughout his rookie year. So that's why I'm thinking he can truly jump off the screen and be able to get a lot of those numbers. Granted, if he was going to get some of those, some better offensive right tackles, then maybe that'd be a little different. But just looking at the schedule, he's not actually going to see a lot of the best type of right tackles in the league. So I can easily see him, coming out the gate hot on fire, having like 2-3 sacks in the first 4 games and continuing that pace throughout the rest of the year, especially in this scheme where they're just getting straight up field and you're going to have a good secondary behind you that's going to hold up long enough to where a quarterback might have to hit you a couple of times and then you can go and get the quarterback. So, yeah, like I'm extremely optimistic on Will Anderson based on what we've seen in practice. Yeah, man, like it's gonna be a really good season from Will as a rookie.
A little over a week from today, the Texans will open up the preseason in Foxborough, Massachusetts against the New England Patriots, and hopefully we'll get to see a good amount of Will Anderson, a good amount of Derek Stingley, a good amount of CJ Stroud in that game. DJ Bien-Aime is on X. Are we going to call it that? We're going to call it X. We're going to call it Twitter.
I'm calling it Twitter.
You're going to call it Twitter. It's still okay. I noticed the other day that retweets are now reposts. They're trying to kill the word Twitter. They're trying to kill the word tweet. Not that anyone cares about that.
I didn't know. I didn't know that.
Just saw it the other day, DJ. But DJ's on Twitter at DJ Bien-Aime. If you are someone who parlez-vous français, maybe you're able to spell that easily. But I'm on Twitter as well at Gallant Says. Definitely have the Frenchest names in all of Houston, Texas podcasting.
Facts. Without
100% between the both.
100%.
My middle name is Maurice. Paul Maurice Gallant. Oui. Ça c'est très français. So we're going to do something every single episode when DJ, gets back from my hilarious joke. We're going to do a mailbag every single week. You'll be able to answer those questions on both of our Twitters, at Says, at DJ Bien-Aime. So DJ, you put that out there, and I found a couple of interesting questions. And since you have actually been able to be out at all these practices, you're going to answer these first. Our guy, Fifth Ward Crenshaw from the Texas Battle Podcast, asked this: who's looked better, Derek Stingley or Steven Nelson? Nelson has 2 interceptions for what it's worth to this point in camp.
I would say, man. That's a tough one. They've both been good. They've both been really good. Both been really effective. Man, that's tough. That's tough. For now, I'll go tie. I'll go with tie. Yeah, I'll go with tie. Because Steve has 2 interceptions. Stingley has a pick 6 and has some incomplete passes thrown his way. I only focus on team. Like, even one-on-ones, like, there was one play where, like, Hutchinson took Stingley deep. But, like, the Texans are never going to run cover 0. Like, that's a coverage they do not run. They don't run cover 0. So there's the way the ball was thrown to the middle of the field too. So like there'll be a safety there anyway. But Hutch has been showing out. Like he's caught my attention. But it's not here nor there. During team, they've both been really, really good, man. So I would say I would. That's why I said tie. Because even when people could catch passes on, like Nico caught a pass on Stingley 2 days ago. It was like a dig over the middle, but Sting was like right there. Like there was barely any space. So yeah, no, I would say tie. I would say tie for sure. I would say tie.
We mentioned it's a crowded cornerback room in previous episodes, but I think any possibility of Nelson not being on the roster going into next season, which is something I floated mainly because of his contract, that is out the window.
So
It's now a matter of, are they going to give him some sort of extension? Are they actually going to pay him? Have you heard anything on that front?
nah, I think they're gonna just make him play it out. There's no incentive to extend him. There's just no incentive. Steve's still a professional. Like Steve's not gonna like be a malcontent and like a problem in the locker room because Steve wants his money. So like he's not going to cause issues within the building that's only gonna expedite him possibly losing money, or expedite him getting cut, and then let's say he gets cut mid-season. Now he has to go somewhere else where everybody already kind of has their rosters set up, already has their starters, and learn a whole new system while also trying to build chemistry with his other defensive backs, and then possibly try to steal a starting spot that may not even exist. So there's just no incentive. Like you're kind of betting on the system of the CBA with players. You're kind of betting against that. You're betting with that Steven Nelson won't act up because he won't get the money he wants. I think the
I do want him to act up though. I want him to act up more. The Clown Creek thing was hilarious. He is a funny follow on social media. He makes me laugh. And I would advise him to pull back in the day, Texans cornerback Dante Robinson famously put on his cleats, "Pay me, Rick," referring to then Texans general manager Rick Smith. It's one of the most badass moves of recent NFL history during an era where I bet he got fined a ton for that. So, Steve, you could do "Pay me, Nick." Pretty easy.
That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea.
The Beltway boys ask this, DJ. How has Robert Woods been looking? I haven't heard much about him. And a couple of other people, Wesley Foster, Dr. Barrett, asked about some of the other wide receivers and if a hierarchy has emerged. Starting with Robert Woods, what have you seen?
Well, Robert Woods, he's been solid. He's been fine. The entire receiving core hasn't really stood out per se. I think the guy that has made a little bit more plays has been Tank.
Tank Dell.
Yeah, it's been Tank. But I think that just kind of more speaks to like just the overall state of the receiving room. There's just a lot to go. Like there isn't a number one wide receiver, so the ball kind of spreads around a little bit. So it's kind of, if it's your day to get the ball a lot, it'll just be your day. Where OTAs, Nico is getting the ball a lot, but Nico hasn't really made that much noise. Obviously, yesterday he had Tuesday he had a phenomenal catch from a phenomenal throw from Davis. So like it's just spurts, right? Like you'll see something nice from Nico, you'll see something nice from Robert, you'll see something nice from Tank, something nice from Noah Brown. I think the most consistent guy has been Noah Brown. I'll say that. The most consistent guy has been Noah Brown. You've seen him flash a lot in terms of just consistency. So I would say, so Robert's been fine. Someone was asking, like, do I think he'll get cut? No. His contract won't allow for him to get cut or even traded. Like that doesn't even, the dead cap would be too much. You already took on a bunch of dead cap for Brandon Cooks. It wouldn't make any sense to take on another $10 million of dead cap money.
Right.
But so back to the hierarchy of the receiver spot is basically, you got Noah Brown, you got Nico, Tank, and Robert Woods. And it's just, a little bit of Mechie. And just those five just having to spread the wealth, per se. So I could see a scenario where Robert Woods is the leading receiver, but I think the person that'll be leading in targets will be Dalton Schultz.
And we'll see. Dalton Schultz out the last couple of practices after getting dinged in a practice, I believe, on Sunday. To continue with the wide receivers, you mentioned Xavier Hutchinson a little bit ago. Hutchinson has shown flashes. I guess between he and John Mechie, who's shown more flashes? That's a question specifically from a guy by the name of Dr. Barrett.
Who's shown more flashes between those two?
Yes.
Yeah, Hutch.
Hutch. All right.
Yeah.
That's good to see.
I mean, Hutch has been a vertical threat. Again, you saw that one play from Mills to Hutch down the field. Obviously, Will Anderson would have broke Davis Mills' neck, but he didn't, and Hutch still made the play down the field. It wouldn't have been a touchdown because Kobe Francis would have tackled him. He just kind of ran off and tapped him. He would have tackled him. That wouldn't have been a touchdown. But he's made that play. Obviously, that one-on-one deep bomb to Derek Stingley on a one-on-one, during that one-on-one. You've seen him, flash with the second team, sometimes flash with the third team. So it's for him, it's just more about seeing if he can carve a role with the ones. Because he hasn't run much with the ones. It's really been the guys running with the ones has been Tank, Mechie in the slot. Tank can get outside a little bit, but Tank is gonna make his living in the slot. Tank isn't gonna be an outside receiver, at least not year one. That wouldn't be smart for the Texans to do that, to put Tank on the outside a bunch because of his stature. At least if you keep him in the slot, you can get more creative and you can get him free releases. So he's an elite separator. You can get him the ball in space so he can do damage. And on the outside, you got Robert, Nico, Noah Brown. And obviously those three guys, mainly Noah and Robert, have been in the slot a little bit more. I'm rotating back and forth. Nico sometimes gets there, but Nico's mainly going to be an outside guy. So to answer the original question, Hutch has made more plays than Mechie. But, it's only, for me, as I said, it's only day 2 of camp.
Mailbag continues. This question is from Albert. We've heard DJ wax poetically about the secondary on probably every single episode thus far, to the point where I am 100% convinced, too, that they are potentially a top 10 unit this coming season. Albert also asks, though, if the defensive line you see as a borderline top 10 unit, and also, is linebacker really the only question mark on the defense?
When did I ever say that D-line was a borderline top 10 unit?
This is Albert asking the question. Do
Oh,
you think the defensive line is a top 10 unit? I would say no.
There's a lot of it's not really like them. It's more about just what's across the league, right?
I would agree.
Like if you look at the Jets D-line, like you guys actually say, okay, which D-lines are better? So we go through each division. The Jets D-line is an absolute monster. They're better. You got the Dolphins D-line, front, because they run a 3-4, so the outside linebackers will rush a bunch. So that's Chubb and Phillips, along with Wilkins and Zeeler and Agba. So their D-line, their front, I would take over the Texans. Patriots, it's weird because they have Matthew Judon, and obviously you have the other dude, Josh. I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Uche.
Who came on out strong last season. So it's like, do you take theirs? You know what I'm saying? So I would always put the Patriots front up there because Bill Belichick, their front's always going to be good. So that's 3 teams right there. The Bills front,
and all of our,
Bills,
that's just one division.
Yeah.
No.
I wouldn't put the Bills. I wouldn't put the Bills above them.
Okay.
Then you got the AFC North. You got the Bengals D line. You got Trey Hendrickson. He's phenomenal. So you got the race he got. You know what I'm saying? Then you got the Browns. The Browns, it's weird because they have one guy, and Myles Garrett, who's phenomenal, but like the pieces around. But they got Darius Smith.
See,
you know what I'm saying?
6.
Yeah.
Steelers,
and then you got,
Cam Hayward.
Steelers, that's 7. Then you go to the.
We've only listed 7 teams.
And then you
they're not top 10.
Yeah, then you go to the NFC West, the Niners. Case closed. You know what I'm saying? You go to Dallas, case closed. Eagles, case closed. Like the list go on.
Eagles.
So it's not, they don't have a good front. They do. But top 10, you gotta look across the league.
Right.
A lot of teams that are super, super, super loaded on their defensive front. I'm trying to think of another team the Jags front could be really good this year. You know what I'm saying? You got Josh Allen, you got Trayvon Walker, you got the D tackle. I think it's Fantakoski. I covered him, so I should know how to say that. Fantakoski. There we go. You know what I'm saying? Like he's really good at a D tackle spot.
And also, DJ wasn't a very good unit last year. I think they're trending in the right direction, but to say top 10 at this moment in time is really hopeful optimism. And I think, we could probably list. I bet we could list 20, honestly, off the top of our heads, defensive lines. before we got to the Texans, because a lot of it is built on the fact that Will Anderson is going to come in and be really good, that Jerry Hughes is going to be the same player he was in the first half of last year, that both Malik Collins and I would imagine Sheldon Rankins or whoever else they put on the interior are going to be there for the majority of the year. And also to follow up with this question from Albert, the linebacker, I think is a question, but I think we'll touch on it maybe a little bit later. DJ, what are you seeing out of the linebackers? Because I know there's been one name that's jumped out of late, and maybe this goes into our question that was going to be about surprise players. Seems like Blake Paston's had a nice couple of days with Christian Kirksey not at practice.
Yeah, that's good. You're right. That is a surprise player. So we can kind of combine both questions now because the linebacker unit obviously still gonna have his questions. Like we're not gonna really be able to determine until like games actually start. But Christian Harris looks better. He looks much better than he did last year. He looked like a chicken with his head cut off at times. This year, he got the head on, and the chicken is running around and trying to make plays and trying to find eggs and things of that nature. So,
when he runs straight and puts his shoulder into someone, holy crap.
Yeah,
he is a powerful person in terms of hitting ability.
He's fast. Like he's super fast. He's real fast. Dude, it's a legitimate competition at the linebacker spot. The only guy that's like for sure got his spot locked is Harris. Mm-hmm. You got Kirksey fighting for a spot at the starter.
That's interesting.
Blake is fighting. Perriman's fighting. Who else?
Littleton, To'o.
Yeah, To'o's fighting.
5th round pick.
I don't know. Littleton's fighting. Cause I never see he hasn't run with the ones much. So I wouldn't say I couldn't say he's fighting for a starting spot. Because for me to say he's fighting for a starting spot, you have to run with them like quite often. Perriman's run with them a decent amount. Henry Toto has when people have been out. Kirksey has, and obviously Blake caught an interception. He caught one on Monday. He caught an interception on I almost said Justin Fields on CJ Stroud. He caught an interception. So yeah, the linebacker spot has more juice for sure this year.
Is it fair to say that's the most competitive group on the team?
For
linebacker,
like battling for like starting spots.
Yeah, like most uncertainty, most up in the air, most that can be decided in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Because the D line, Sheldon's gonna be a starter, Malik's gonna be a starter, Will's gonna be a starter, Hughes / Bernard's gonna be a starter, right?
Yeah.
Safety, we ain't even gotta discuss that. Cornerback, we ain't even gotta discuss that. O-line. Center might be up for grabs.
Interesting.
Yeah, the center might be up for grabs. Scott and Juice have been battling.
Okay. Scott Quesenberry is mentioning, and Juice Scruggs, the 2nd round pick out of Penn State.
Right guard. Come on, they ain't paying him to put him on the bench. Right tackle, they ain't paying him to put him on the bench. Left tackle, they ain't paying him to put him on the bench. Put him on the bench. Left guard, Keon Green, first round pick in the 2022 class. He's playing. So tight end, Dalton's gonna start. If they go 12, maybe Dalton and Brevin. So maybe like the number 2 tight end spot might be a little bit open. Receiver, ain't really that much of it. It's gonna be Robert Nico. And we figure out who's gonna be in the slot. Maybe Noah, maybe Tank, maybe Mechie. I know that is. So to answer your question, yes, right? Because even with quarterbacks, the competition, we know season's gonna start eventually. Whether it's preseason game number 2, 3, or week 1, or 2, 3, whatever. He's going to start eventually. With the linebacker spot, only person that has a spot for sure is Christian Harris. So, yeah, I think, whenever they go into that base 4-3 look, it could be Harris with Perryman and Kirksey, or Harris with Blakeman and Toto, or Harris with Kirksey and Toto. It's all kinds of options there, in my honest opinion. The question I do want to see is, I might get a little football nerdy, like who's gonna be at what spot? Like, is Harris gonna be at strong? He's gonna be because Harris, I don't think he's a Mike right now, but I think he could be a Will or a strong because of his speed and his ability to range sideline to sideline. If you put Kirksey at middle, you put Kirksey at strong, and then put Denzel at middle, because Denzel is mainly a middle. He's mainly a middle. He could play a little bit of weak, mean, he can play a little bit strong. He for sure plays some strong. I wouldn't put him weak because weak sometimes you have to shadow over like the slot sometimes, and that can get a little tricky. I wouldn't really necessarily want that. Wouldn't be utilizing Perriman to his best ability if you have him on, possibly on the side where slot could be having to guard in that area. It can get a
You
little
want a
tricky.
faster guy out there.
Right. So, but yeah, so I'm really curious to see like which guy gets slotted where. So, but yeah, to answer your question, yes, that position has the most, not question marks per se, but for sure the most competition.
Last question in the mailbag, and we touched on it momentarily, at least mentioned them by name. Juice Scruggs, the second-round pick from the Texans, center out of Penn State. Kenyon Green, the first-round pick from Texas A&M last year at left guard. How have they looked thus far? How's the interior of the offensive line looking at this point in time as well? You mentioned a second ago, Scott Questenberry, and Juice Scruggs. It's actually a bit of a competition at center, which is surprising because it was not the best year for Scott Questenberry last year, who stepped in after Justin Britt kind of just vanished.
Man, we still haven't found out the answer behind that, but I think Juice will eventually start, but it has been there's been some rookie growing pains and things of that nature. Obviously, Kenyon Green is good in the run game. Like he's always been good at that. His premise is more pass protection. So obviously that's still a work in progress, but you're seeing improvement. The run game, he's gonna still be what he is. I think Juice Scruggs, he's gonna start mainly because they traded up for him, and you kind of know what Scott is. And it's very rare where let me see how many years has Scott been in the NFL. Let me see him. I pull up right now. He's been in the NFL. He's 28. He's around my age. He's been in the league since 2018. So like he kind of is who he is at this point. So I mean he was only a majority starter 1 year of his career, which was last season, out of necessity. So I think Juice will start. I think Juice will start, and Scott can be a solid, reliable backup, and that'll be that. So I think the starting unit is going to be what it's going to be. It's going to be Laramie, Green, Juice, Shaq, Titus. So,
well, that's our last question in the mailbag, and that's going to wrap up today's episode of the Talkin Texans podcast. We're a week away from games. Let's go. If you haven't already, subscribe. Apple Podcast, Spotify, or subscribe wherever you watch on YouTube, which is, by the way, only one place. I don't know why I said it like that. ESPN Houston on YouTube. Look it up. He is DJ Bien-Aime. Keep on checking out his work for ESPN, whether it's on SportsCenter or ESPN.com. Hear me 10 to noon, weekdays, ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. So long. Farewell. Have yourselves a wonderful week.